Welcome to Stoic Vivu, where ancient wisdom meets modern life. Today, we're exposing a lie that's keeping you stuck, and I'm going to show you the Stoic path to unstoppable self-discipline. Here's the truth nobody wants to admit: motivation is a scam. Every day, you're bombarded with inspirational quotes, pump-up videos, and success stories designed to make you feel like you can conquer the world. You save them, share them, feel that surge of energy, and then what? Monday comes and you're back to the same old patterns. The gym membership collects dust. The business plan stays in your notebook. The dream remains a dream. Why? Because motivation is just a feeling, and feelings fade. You can't build a life on something that disappears the moment things get hard. The ancient Stoics knew this truth 2,000 years ago, which is why they focused on something far more powerful: discipline. Think about it. Every significant achievement in your life required showing up when you didn't feel like it. Learning to drive wasn't about feeling motivated every lesson. Graduating wasn't about being inspired every day. These accomplishments came from something deeper: the ability to do what needs to be done, regardless of how you feel. This is where most people get stuck. They have the intent, the wish, the Pinterest board full of goals, but no meaningful movement forward. They're waiting for motivation to strike like lightning, not realizing they're waiting for something that will never last. Meanwhile, life keeps passing by, and those dreams get pushed to someday, which we all know means never. The Stoics understood that discipline isn't about punishment or military-style rigidity. It's about freedom. When you have self-discipline, you're free from being controlled by your moods. You're free from needing perfect conditions. You're free to actually build the life you want instead of just dreaming about it. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in Rome, didn't rule an empire on motivation. Seneca didn't become one of history's wisest philosophers by waiting to feel inspired. Epictetus didn't overcome slavery to become a renowned teacher through motivational quotes. They all understood that self-discipline is the bridge between intentions and accomplishments. But here's what makes the Stoic approach different: it's not about forcing yourself through willpower alone. The Stoics discovered that true discipline comes from aligning with your nature, not fighting against it. They identified 3 essential pillars that make discipline not just sustainable, but natural: self-control to resist what pulls you off course, industriousness to embrace work as part of your human nature, and clear aim to give your efforts direction and meaning. In this video, we're going deep into each of these pillars. You'll discover why you're naturally designed for discipline, how to build unshakable self-control, and how to create a purpose so compelling that discipline becomes automatic. This isn't about motivation that fades by Tuesday. This is about building a way of life that transforms you into someone who gets things done, period. Let's begin your discipline revolution. 1. Why your motivation always dies, and what actually works. Let's get real about motivation. You've felt it before, that incredible rush when you decide to change your life. Maybe it was New Year's Eve, or after watching an inspiring movie, or scrolling through success stories at 2 a.m. You were absolutely certain that this time would be different. This time you'd stick to the plan. This time, nothing could stop you. Fast forward 2 weeks. The alarm goes off at 5 a.m. for your new morning routine, and suddenly that fire in your belly has turned to ice. The workout clothes stay in the drawer. The journal remains blank. The healthy meal prep containers sit empty. What happened to that unstoppable person from 2 weeks ago? Here's what happened: you tried to build your life on quicksand. Motivation is an emotion, and like all emotions, it's temporary by nature. Expecting motivation to carry you through months or years of effort is like expecting a sugar rush to power you through a marathon. It's not just unrealistic, it's impossible. The science backs this up. Motivation is driven by dopamine, the same neurotransmitter that makes you crave your phone notifications. It's designed for short bursts, not sustained effort. When the novelty wears off, and it always does, your brain stops producing that feel-good chemical. This isn't a character flaw or weakness. It's biology. Consider this scenario. You decide to learn a new language. The first week is exciting. You're learning basic phrases, imagining yourself ordering coffee in Paris, impressing everyone with your linguistic skills. But then comes week 3, when you're struggling with verb conjugations and grammar rules. Week 5, when you can barely remember what you learned in week 1. Week 10, when you realize you're still basically a beginner. Where's the motivation now? Or take building a business. The initial idea is intoxicating. You see yourself as the next success story, financial freedom just months away. But then reality hits. The late nights with no immediate payoff. The rejections. The technical problems. The competition. The months of work before seeing any real progress. Motivation can't survive this reality check. Seneca understood this deeply. He wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new to the old and finds comfort in the lasting." He wasn't talking about avoiding progress. He was recognizing that real achievement comes from consistent action, not fleeting excitement. The Stoics had a different approach entirely. They didn't wait for motivation because they understood something fundamental. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. When you do something consistently, regardless of how you feel, you build what they call disciplina, the ability to follow through on your commitments to yourself. Marcus Aurelius demonstrated this daily. Do you think the Emperor of Rome felt motivated every morning to deal with corrupt senators, military threats, and administrative tedium? In his personal journal, later published as Meditations, he reveals his struggles. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, "I have to go to work as a human being." Notice he doesn't say, "I feel excited to work." He says, "I have to." That's discipline talking, not motivation. The difference between motivation and discipline is like the difference between a match and a furnace. A match burns bright and hot, but it's consumed in seconds. A furnace provides steady, reliable heat that can warm a house through the coldest winter. Which would you rather build your life on? Here's what actually works. Systems, not feelings. The Stoics built their entire philosophy on this principle. Epictetus taught his students to focus on what he called discipline of desire, training yourself to want what is good for you and reject what harms you, regardless of momentary impulses. This isn't about suppressing all desires, but about aligning them with your long-term well-being. Think about the most successful people you know personally, not celebrities or outliers, but regular people who've built good lives. Do they seem perpetually motivated, or do they simply show up and do the work? The small business owner who opens the shop every morning, rain or shine. The parent who prepares healthy meals even when fast food would be easier. The student who studies consistently, not just before exams. These people have discovered what the Stoics knew. Reliability beats intensity every time. Seneca put it brilliantly. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor. Applied to achievement, we could say, it is not the person who lacks motivation, but the person who depends on it who fails. When you stop craving that motivational high and start building disciplined systems, everything changes. The practical application is simple but not easy. Instead of waiting to feel ready, create schedules and stick to them. Instead of relying on inspiration, develop habits that run on autopilot. Instead of seeking motivation, seek consistency. The Stoics called this premeditatio, planning your actions in advance so that when the moment comes, you don't need to feel anything special. You just do what you plan to do. This is why discipline trumps motivation every single time. Discipline is sustainable. Discipline compounds. Discipline transforms you from someone who needs perfect conditions into someone who creates their own conditions. And unlike motivation, discipline actually gets stronger the more you use it. 2. The ancient secret that built Roman emperors. When you hear the word discipline, what comes to mind? Military boot camps? Strict boarding schools? Punishment and deprivation? If that's your association, you're not alone. Modern culture has turned discipline into a dirty word, something harsh and joyless that we endure rather than embrace. But the ancient Stoics understood discipline completely differently, and their understanding built the greatest empire in human history. Marcus Aurelius wasn't just any Roman emperor. He was the last of the 5 good emperors who presided over the Pax Romana, nearly 2 centuries of unprecedented peace and prosperity. While other emperors descended into madness, cruelty, or decadence, Marcus maintained his philosophical principles while managing plagues, wars, and political turmoil. His secret? A disciplined life guided by Stoic philosophy. But here's what most people miss. Marcus didn't see discipline as suffering. In his private journal, he wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, and the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For him, discipline wasn't about restriction, it was about freedom. Freedom from being controlled by circumstances. Freedom from being enslaved by desires. Freedom to act according to wisdom rather than impulse. The Stoics identified discipline as one of the cardinal virtues, alongside wisdom, justice, and courage. But they broke it down into components that transform our understanding: perseverance, the ability to persist despite obstacles; endurance, maintaining strength through difficulties; high-mindedness, keeping perspective on what truly matters; and self-control, mastering your responses to external events. Notice how none of these involve punishment or misery. They're all about strength and capability. Consider how this played out in real Roman life. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men and advisor to Emperor Nero, could have lived in pure luxury. Instead, he regularly practiced voluntary hardship. He would spend days eating only basic food, sleeping on the floor, wearing rough clothing. Why would a rich man do this? He explained, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" This wasn't masochism, it was training. By voluntarily experiencing discomfort, Seneca removed its power over him. He discovered that discipline creates what the Stoics called ataraxia, a state of serene confidence that comes from knowing you can handle whatever life throws at you. When you've proven to yourself that you can thrive with less, you stop fearing loss. When you've shown you can work despite discomfort, temporary feelings stop controlling you. The Roman military conquered the known world not through superior numbers or technology, but through discipline. Roman soldiers built their camps the same way every single night, even after exhausting marches. They maintained their equipment meticulously. They drilled formations until they could execute them in their sleep. This discipline made them nearly invincible, not because it was pleasant, but because it was effective. But the Stoics took this military concept and made it philosophical. They realized that the same principles that built military might could build personal character. Epictetus, who started life as a slave and ended as one of philosophy's great teachers, taught that discipline is really about choice. He said, "No one is free who is not master of himself." Every time you choose the harder but better path, you're exercising a muscle that grows stronger with use. This brings us to the three-dimensional framework the Stoics used to build unshakable discipline. First, self-control, the ability to resist what doesn't serve you. Second, industriousness, the natural human inclination to work and contribute. Third, aim, the clear purpose that gives meaning to your efforts. These aren't separate practices but interwoven aspects of a disciplined life. Modern neuroscience has validated what the Stoics intuited. When you practice discipline, you literally rewire your brain. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for executive function and self-control, grows stronger with use. The neural pathways that support disciplined behavior become more efficient. What starts as conscious effort becomes automatic habit. The Stoics called this hexis, a stable disposition created through repeated practice. Here's a practical example from Marcus Aurelius's own life. Every morning, he faced the same challenge we all do, getting out of bed when it's comfortable to stay. But instead of relying on feeling ready, he had a mental routine. He would remind himself, "I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do?" Notice the reframe. He's not forcing himself through willpower alone. He's connecting the immediate discomfort to a larger purpose. This is the ancient secret. Discipline becomes natural when it's aligned with your understanding of your role in the world. The Stoics believed humans are social creatures designed to work and contribute. Fighting this nature creates suffering. Embracing it creates flow. This is why Stoic discipline actually leads to inner peace rather than inner conflict. When your actions align with your nature and values, there's no internal war. You're not fighting yourself, you're expressing yourself. The structure and predictability of a disciplined life reduce the stress of constant decision-making. You know what you're going to do because you've already decided. This frees your mental energy for what truly matters. The emperors and philosophers who built Rome understood something we've forgotten in our comfort-obsessed age. Discipline is not the enemy of happiness, it's the foundation of it. When you can trust yourself to follow through, when you know you can handle difficulties, when your life has structure and purpose, you experience a satisfaction that no amount of comfort can provide. This is the ancient secret that built not just an empire, but countless fulfilled lives. 3. How to control your mind when everything tempts you. Imagine you're at a dinner party. The table is loaded with every delicious food imaginable. The wine flows freely. Desserts that would make a pastry chef weep with envy. Everyone around you is indulging without restraint. But you're trying to stick to your health goals. This scenario perfectly captures the daily battle we all face, not just with food, but with every temptation modern life throws at us. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who rose from slavery to become one of Rome's greatest teachers, used a similar metaphor. He said we should treat life as a banquet. Is anything brought around to you? Put out your hand and take your share with moderation. Does it pass by you? Don't stop it. Has it not yet come? Don't stretch your desire towards it, but wait till it reaches you. But then he adds something profound with regard to children, to a wife, to public posts, to riches, and you will eventually be a worthy guest at the feast of the gods. This isn't about deprivation. It's about mastery. In our hyperconnected world, temptations don't just pass by occasionally, they assault us constantly. Your phone buzzes with notifications while you're trying to work. Netflix releases a new season while you're supposed to be studying. Social media shows everyone living their best life while you're grinding away at your goals. The modern banquet never ends and everything is engineered to be irresistible. Here's the brutal truth: you cannot control these distractions. You can't stop your coworkers from inviting you to happy hour when you're trying to save money. You can't prevent ads from targeting your weaknesses. You can't make the world less tempting. As Epictetus taught, these things fall into the category of not up to us, external events beyond our direct control. But here's where Stoic philosophy becomes revolutionary. While you can't control what tempts you, you have complete control over your response. Epictetus made this distinction the cornerstone of his teaching. Some things are within our power, while others are not. Within our power are opinion, motivation, desire, aversion, and, in a word, whatever is of our own doing. Your response to temptation? That's entirely yours to command. Let me paint a practical picture. Sarah is writing her dissertation. It's 2 p.m. on a Tuesday and she's struggling with a difficult chapter. Her phone lights up, her friends are organizing an impromptu beach day. The weather is perfect. The chapter is boring. Every fiber of her being wants to close the laptop and grab her swimsuit. This is the critical moment where self-control either wins or loses. The untrained mind immediately starts rationalizing. I've been working hard. I deserve a break. I can write twice as much tomorrow. Life is short, I should enjoy it. These thoughts feel true in the moment, but they're actually temptation in disguise. The Stoics called this fantasia, the initial impression that hasn't been examined by reason. Here's where Stoic practice comes in. Instead of being swept away by the initial impulse, Sarah can pause and apply what Epictetus called prosoche, mindful attention. She examines the temptation rationally. Will going to the beach actually help her finish her dissertation? Will the temporary pleasure outweigh the stress of falling behind? Is this aligned with what she truly wants for her life? This pause is everything. Modern psychology calls it cognitive space, the gap between stimulus and response where choice lives. The Stoics were training this capacity 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. Every time you create that pause and choose deliberately, you strengthen your capacity for self-control. But here's what most self-help advice misses. Self-control isn't about white-knuckling through temptation. It's about changing your relationship with it. Seneca practiced this by deliberately exposing himself to temptations while maintaining control. He would attend lavish banquets but eat simply. He would surround himself with luxury but live modestly. Why? He was proving to himself that external things had no power over him. You can apply this same principle. Instead of avoiding all temptations impossible in modern life, practice experiencing them without being controlled by them. Scroll social media for exactly 5 minutes, then stop. Walk through your favorite store without buying anything. Have one piece of chocolate when you could eat the whole bar. These small victories build what the Stoics called enkritia, power over oneself. The transformation happens gradually. At first, resisting temptation feels like deprivation. Your mind screams that you're missing out, that life is passing you by. But as you practice, something shifts. You realize that every time you choose your goals over momentary pleasure, you're not losing, you're winning. You're proving that you're the author of your life, not a puppet dancing to every external pull. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully. Confine yourself to the present. When temptation strikes, you're not giving up pleasure forever. You're just choosing not to indulge right now, in this present moment. Tomorrow's temptations will be handled tomorrow. This moment-by-moment approach makes self-control manageable rather than overwhelming. The ultimate goal isn't to become an emotionless robot. It's to achieve what the Stoics called eleutheria, freedom. When you master self-control, you're free from being jerked around by every passing desire. You're free to pursue what truly matters without being derailed by what merely glitters. You're free to be the person you've decided to be, rather than whoever your impulses make you in the moment. This freedom, the Stoics believed, is the foundation of a flourishing life. 4. The 5-minute morning routine Marcus Aurelius used daily. It's 5 a.m. on the Roman frontier. The most powerful man in the world is lying in his military tent and he doesn't want to get up. Outside, an empire awaits his decisions. Generals need orders. Citizens need justice. Enemies need defeating. But right now, Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, is having the same struggle you had this morning. His bed is warm and the world is cold. What happens next is recorded in his personal journal, never meant for publication. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm? Then comes the inner dialogue we all know, but it's nicer here. Marcus responds to himself with stunning directness. So you were born to feel nice? Instead of doing things and experiencing them? Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can? And you're not willing to do your job as a human being? Why are you running to do what your nature demands? This wasn't motivational self-talk. This was philosophy in action, a practiced routine that took less than 5 minutes but set the tone for ruling an empire. Let's break down exactly how Marcus Aurelius used Stoic principles to win the morning battle every single day. First, he acknowledged the struggle. Notice he doesn't pretend getting up is easy or pleasurable. He admits it's nicer in bed. This honesty is crucial. Modern productivity culture often tells us we should love the grind or be excited to attack the day. The Stoics were more realistic. They knew that doing what's right often feels uncomfortable. The goal isn't to feel good about it, it's to do it anyway. Second, he connected the immediate discomfort to a larger purpose. Marcus didn't just think, I should get up. He reminded himself why, I have to go to work as a human being. In Stoic philosophy, humans have a specific nature and purpose. We're rational, social creatures designed to work and contribute. Fighting this nature is like a bird refusing to fly or a bee refusing to make honey. It goes against our fundamental design. This connects to a deeper Stoic principle that Marcus references throughout his meditations. He writes, in the morning when thou risest unwillingly, let this thought be present. I am rising to the work of a human being. Why then am I dissatisfied if I am going to do the things for which I exist and for which I was brought into the world? Third, he used comparison with nature. This wasn't random, it was a deliberate Stoic technique. The Stoics constantly looked to nature for guidance, believing that living according to nature was the key to flourishing. When Marcus noticed that ants, bees, and spiders don't need motivation to do their work, he reminded himself that industriousness is natural, not artificial. Think about this for a moment. Have you ever seen a depressed spider refusing to spin its web? A bee lying in the hive, scrolling through its phone instead of collecting pollen? Nature doesn't do procrastination. Only humans, with our complex minds, create elaborate excuses for avoiding what we're designed to do. Fourth, he challenged himself with questions. Why are you running to do what your nature demands? This wasn't gentle encouragement, it was philosophical confrontation. Marcus was essentially asking himself, are you going to be less dutiful than an ant? Less industrious than a bee? The questions forced him to confront the gap between his philosophy and his actions. But Marcus was also balanced. He continues in his journal, you don't love yourself enough. Or you'd love your nature too and what it demands of you. People who love what they do wear themselves down doing it. They even forget to wash or eat. He then lists examples, a turner with his lathe, a dancer with dancing, a miser with money, a social climber with status. His point? People naturally work hard at what they value. If you're struggling with laziness, perhaps you don't truly value your own nature and capabilities. This is profound psychological insight. Marcus is saying that self-discipline isn't about forcing yourself, it's about loving yourself enough to honor your potential. When you truly respect your capabilities, using them becomes a form of self-care, not self-punishment. The emperor also had a response ready for the excuse we all use, but we have to sleep sometime. He writes, agreed. But nature set a limit on that, as it did on eating and drinking. And you're over the limit. You've had more than enough of that. But not for working. There, you're still below your quota. This 5-minute morning routine, acknowledging difficulty, connecting to purpose, observing nature, self-questioning, and balancing rest with work, transformed a groggy emperor into a focused leader. But here's the key, it worked because it was practiced daily. Marcus didn't wait for inspiration. He had a philosophical framework ready to deploy the moment his eyes opened. You can implement this exact routine tomorrow morning. When your alarm goes off, instead of hitting snooze, spend 5 minutes on this Stoic reflection. Acknowledge that bed feels better. Remind yourself what you're built to do. Notice that nature is already at work outside your window. Ask yourself if you'll honor your capabilities today. Remember that you've already had sufficient rest. Then get up and prove that you're at least as disciplined as an ant. 5. Find your natural genius. The Hercules Method. There's a story Epictetus loved to tell his students, and it holds the key to understanding why some people seem to work effortlessly while others struggle with every task. It's about Hercules, the divine hero of Greek mythology. But Epictetus wasn't interested in the fantasy. He was interested in the philosophy. What would have become of Hercules? Do you think? If there had been no lion, hydra, stag, or boar, and no savage criminals to rid the world of? Epictetus asked. What would he have done in the absence of such challenges? Obviously, he would have just rolled over in bed and gone back to sleep. So by snoring his life away in luxury and comfort, he never would have developed into the mighty Hercules. But here's the insight that changes everything. Hercules didn't become a hero by forcing himself to fight monsters. He was naturally built for it. His divine strength, his courage, his sense of justice, these weren't manufactured through willpower. They were his inherent gifts. The challenges didn't create Hercules. They revealed him. This is what most people miss about self-discipline and work. We think we need to force ourselves into molds that don't fit, to become someone we're not. But the Stoics taught the opposite. True industriousness comes from aligning your work with your nature, not fighting against it. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He writes, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Each creature has its unique nature within the universal nature. A bee isn't lazy when it doesn't hunt like a lion. It's following its bee nature. Similarly, you're not failing when you struggle with work that goes against your inherent design. You're just working against nature instead of with it. Let me share a modern example. Jennifer, a talented graphic designer, spent years forcing herself to be a corporate accountant because it paid well. Every morning was torture. Every spreadsheet felt like prison. She needed 3 cups of coffee just to focus and fell asleep exhausted but unfulfilled. Was she lazy? No. She was a fish trying to climb a tree. When she finally switched to design, everything changed. She still worked long hours, longer actually, but now she forgot to eat lunch because she was so absorbed. She thought about projects in the shower. She stayed late not because she had to, but because she wanted to perfect her work. This is what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. The emperor wasn't just talking about dealing with difficult people. He was recognizing that understanding nature, both your own and others, is the key to effective action. When you work according to your nature, discipline becomes almost effortless. When you work against it, no amount of willpower is enough. But how do you find your nature? The Stoics offered practical guidance. Seneca advised, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new to the old and finds comfort in the lasting." In other words, look at what consistently draws you, not what temporarily excites you. What problems do you naturally notice? What activities make you lose track of time? What kind of work feels like play to you but looks like work to others? Epictetus provided another clue. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Applied to finding your nature, this means looking at what you do without external reward. What would you do even if no one paid you? What would you study even if there were no tests? What would you create even if no one would see it? The Stoics also recognized that we have both individual and universal natures. Universally, all humans are rational, social beings designed to work and contribute. But individually, we have different strengths, interests, and capacities. Marcus notes, "That which is not good for the swarm is not good for the bee." Your individual nature must serve the common good, but it does so in its unique way. This is why comparing yourself to others is futile. Seneca wrote, "It is equally faulty to trust everyone and to trust no one." The same principle applies to modeling success. Yes, learn from others, but don't try to be them. Hercules couldn't have been Odysseus, the clever strategist. Odysseus couldn't have been Hercules, the mighty warrior. Each had its own nature and its own form of excellence. Here's the practical method. Start by observing yourself without judgment. Notice what energizes versus drains you. Pay attention to what you're doing when time flies. Look at what others consistently ask you for help with. Often, what seems easy to you but hard to others indicates natural strength. Consider what you loved as a child before society told you what you should do. Then experiment. The Stoics believed in testing philosophy through practice. Try different types of work. Volunteer for various projects. Take on diverse challenges. Not to find what's easy, Hercules' labors weren't easy, but to find what fits. The right work will still be hard, but it will be the right kind of hard. Marcus Aurelius summarized it perfectly. At every moment, keep a sturdy mind on the task at hand. As a Roman and human being, doing it with strict and simple dignity, affection, freedom, and justice, giving yourself a break from all other considerations. When you find work aligned with your nature, this becomes possible. The discipline required isn't a burden. It's an expression of who you are. Remember, industriousness isn't about forcing yourself to work. It's about finding the work you were built to do and then doing it with everything you have. That's the Hercules Method, not becoming someone else, but becoming fully yourself in service to the world. 6. Why you're wasting your life and don't even know it. You're going to die. Not someday in the distant future, but sooner than you think. Seneca knew this truth terrified people, so he forced them to confront it. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. But here's the uncomfortable reality. You're probably wasting your life right now, and you don't even realize it. Not in dramatic ways. You're not lying in bed all day or obviously throwing your life away. No, you're wasting it in socially acceptable ways that feel productive but lead nowhere. Consider Michael, a 35-year-old marketing manager in Chicago. He wakes up, commutes, works, comes home, watches Netflix, scrolls social media, sleeps, and repeats. On weekends, he drinks with friends, recovers from hangovers, and maybe hits the gym. He's busy. He's tired. He feels like time is flying by. But if you asked him what he's building toward, what his life is actually about, he'd give you a blank stare. Marcus Aurelius witnessed this same phenomenon in ancient Rome. There is likewise another sort of roving to be avoided. For some people are busy and yet do nothing. They fatigue and wear themselves out and yet aim at no goal, nor propose any general end of action or design. Think about that: busy yet doing nothing. Exhausted yet accomplishing nothing meaningful. Sound familiar? This is the modern epidemic. We're busier than ever but building nothing. We're constantly stimulated but never satisfied. We work jobs that pay for lifestyles that distract us from the fact that we're not actually living. We're human pinballs, bouncing from one momentary pleasure to another, accumulating experiences but not wisdom, collecting paychecks but not purpose. Seneca was brutal about this. You live as if you were destined to live forever. No thought of your frailty ever enters your head, of how much time has already gone by. You take no heed. You squander time as if you drew from a full and abundant supply, though all the while that day which you bestow on some person or thing is perhaps your last. The paradox of choice makes this worse. Your grandparents had limited options: work the factory, raise a family, and retire. Clear, simple, constraining perhaps, but focused. You could be anything, live anywhere, do anything. This sounds like freedom, but it's actually paralysis. When you can do anything, you often end up doing nothing significant. Social media amplifies this torture. You see friends traveling the world, starting businesses, getting married, having kids, and achieving dreams. Meanwhile, you're sitting on your couch, feeling simultaneously overwhelmed by options and frozen by indecision. You want everything: the successful career, the perfect relationship, the adventurous lifestyle, the creative fulfillment. So you commit to nothing. Marcus Aurelius saw through this illusion. Remember that very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. But we've been programmed to believe the opposite, that we need more, that we're missing out, that happiness is just one more achievement, purchase, or experience away. Here's what aimlessness actually looks like in practice. You start learning Spanish, then quit after 2 weeks to try coding. You abandon coding for cryptocurrency trading. You drop that for a fitness obsession that lasts a month. Each time, you tell yourself you're exploring options or finding yourself. But really, you're just drifting. The Stoics had a word for this: stultitia, foolishness characterized by instability and inconsistency. Seneca wrote, "The fool changes like the moon, but the wise man remains constant like the sun." Every time you change direction without completion, you reset to zero. 10 years pass. and you have nothing to show but a collection of abandoned beginnings. Even worse is productive procrastination, staying busy with tasks that feel important but don't matter. You organize your desk instead of writing. You research the perfect workout plan instead of exercising. You read about starting a business instead of starting one. You mistake motion for progress, activity for achievement. The cost is devastating. Seneca calculated it precisely. It is not that we have so little time, but that we waste so much of it. Life is long enough and has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things if the whole of it is well invested. But when it is dispersed in luxury and carelessness, when it is spent on no good purpose, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realize that it has passed away before we knew it was passing. Think about that last line. It has passed away before we knew it was passing. This is how most people experience life. They sleepwalk through decades, then wonder where the time went. They reach 40, 50, 60, and realize they've been preparing to live rather than actually living. The modern world enables this waste like never before. Entertainment is infinite and instantly available. Distractions are engineered to be addictive. Comfort is so accessible that you can avoid all discomfort, including the discomfort of growth. You can fill every moment with stimulation and still feel empty because none of it means anything. Marcus Aurelius offers the antidote. At every moment, keep a sturdy mind on the task at hand, giving yourself a break from all other considerations. But this requires something most people lack, a clear sense of what actually matters. Without that, you'll continue to waste your life on what's urgent but not important, what's pleasurable but not fulfilling, what's easy but not meaningful. The tragedy isn't that life is short. The tragedy is that most people discover this too late, when their energy is spent and their options have narrowed. They realize they've been majoring in minor things, that they've built nothing lasting, that they've lived according to others' expectations rather than their own values. Don't let this be your story. 7. Create your life mission in 10 minutes. Marcus Aurelius commanded the most powerful empire in history, but his greatest battle was internal. In his private journal, he wrote with urgency, "Stop drifting, sprint to the finish. Write off your hopes, and if your well-being matters to you, be your own savior while you can." This wasn't philosophical musing. This was a man who understood that without a clear aim, even an emperor becomes a slave to circumstances. Right now, you have 10 minutes to change the trajectory of your entire life. Not through some mystical transformation, but through the Stoic practice of choosing your direction with crystal clarity. The ancients called this prohairesis, the fundamental choice that shapes all other choices. It's time to make yours. But first, let's be honest about why you haven't done this already. Creating a life mission feels overwhelming because you think it needs to be perfect, divinely inspired, or approved by others. You're waiting for clarity to strike like lightning. Meanwhile, years pass while you drift in the fog of indecision. Seneca exposed this paralysis. Every man rushes his life forward and suffers from a yearning for the future and a boredom with the present. But he who bestows all his time on his own needs, who plans every day as if it were his last, neither longs for nor fears tomorrow. The key phrase? Plans every day, not someday, today, now. Here's the 10-minute process the Stoics would use, adapted for modern life. Minutes 1 to 3, the death clock exercise. Imagine you have 5 years left to live, not in a morbid way, but as a clarifying constraint. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. With only 5 years remaining, what would actually matter? What would you build? What would you stop wasting time on immediately? Write down 3 things you'd focus on if time were truly limited. Not bucket list adventures, but meaningful accomplishments. What would you create? What problems would you solve? What legacy would you leave? Be specific. Help people is too vague. Teach unemployed veterans coding skills is clear. Minutes 4 to 6. The natural alignment test. Remember the Hercules principle. You have natural strengths meant to serve the world. Epictetus taught, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. In these 3 minutes, answer, what comes easily to you that others find difficult? What problems do you naturally notice and want to solve? When do you feel most alive and engaged? David in Seattle discovered his mission this way. He naturally noticed inefficiencies in systems. While others complained about bureaucracy, he saw puzzles to solve. His mission became streamlining healthcare administration to save nurses time for patient care. It aligned his analytical nature with meaningful impact. Minutes 7 to 8. The obstacle inventory. The Stoics knew that obstacles reveal purpose. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. What obstacles in your life or the world make you angry or frustrated? Often, your mission lies in solving the very problems that torment you. Sarah discovered her mission through her struggle with anxiety. Instead of just managing her own condition, she created a program teaching Stoic techniques to college students facing mental health challenges. Her obstacle became her purpose. Your greatest frustrations often point to your greatest contributions. Minutes 9 to 10. The one-sentence crystallization. Now synthesize everything into one clear sentence. Not a paragraph, not a mission statement full of corporate buzzwords. One sentence that a 10-year-old could understand. Seneca mastered this clarity. If you would judge, understand. Your mission needs the same simplicity. Format. I will specific action for specific group to specific outcome. Examples. I will teach financial literacy to single mothers to break generational poverty. I will create affordable housing solutions for veterans to end homelessness. I will write stories that help children understand their emotions. This isn't about finding the perfect mission. As Epictetus taught, don't demand that things happen as you wish, but wish that they happen as they do happen, and you will go on well. Your mission will evolve. What matters is choosing a direction now and starting to walk. Here's what changes when you have a clear mission. Every decision becomes simpler. Should you take that job? Does it align with your mission? Should you learn that skill? Will it serve your mission? Should you maintain that relationship? Does it support or sabotage your mission? Marcus Aurelius demonstrated this daily. Despite managing an empire at war, dealing with a plague, and facing constant political intrigue, he maintained focus through his mission, to serve Rome with wisdom and justice. Every morning, he reminded himself of this aim. Every decision is filtered through this lens. But beware the modern trap of endless refinement. People spend months crafting the perfect mission statement while doing nothing. The Stoics favored action over perfection. Seneca wrote, "While we wait for life, life passes." Your mission doesn't need to be carved in stone. It needs to guide today's actions. Start immediately. If your mission involves teaching, teach someone something today. If it involves building, sketch the first design. If it involves writing, write the first paragraph. The gap between having a mission and living it should be measured in hours, not years. Remember what Marcus Aurelius told himself: "Be your own savior while you can. No one else will hand you purpose." No career counselor, life coach, or motivational speaker can choose your direction. You must claim this power for yourself, and you must do it now. Your 10 minutes are up. You either have a mission or you have excuses. The Stoics would remind you that tomorrow isn't guaranteed. The only life you can direct is the one you're living right now. Choose your aim, then prove you mean it through action. Everything else is philosophy without practice, words without substance. You now possess what most people spend their entire lives searching for: the complete blueprint for unshakable self-discipline. Not the fake motivation that dies by Tuesday, but the Stoic system that built emperors and transformed slaves into philosophers. Let's crystallize what you've discovered. First, motivation is a lie that keeps you waiting for feelings that will never last. Second, discipline isn't punishment. It's freedom from being controlled by circumstances. Third, you have 3 pillars to build: self-control that makes you master of your responses, industriousness aligned with your natural strengths, and a clear mission that turns daily actions into meaningful progress. Marcus Aurelius didn't have YouTube videos or self-help books. He had something more powerful: philosophical principles applied daily. Now you have both the wisdom and the practical methods. The question isn't whether this works. The question is whether you'll use it. Here's your immediate action plan. Tomorrow morning, when your alarm rings, implement the 5-minute Stoic morning routine. Don't wait for Monday. Don't wait for the right time. Tomorrow, when temptation strikes during the day, create that pause and choose deliberately. When you feel aimless, review your mission and take one concrete action toward it. The Stoics believed in something called the discipline of action, the practice of doing what philosophy teaches. Knowledge without application is worthless. You can watch 1,000 videos about discipline, but until you actually get up when the alarm rings, resist the distraction, and work toward your mission, you're just entertaining yourself with wisdom you're not using. Remember Seneca's warning: life is long enough if you know how to use it. You've probably already wasted years. That time is gone forever. But what you do with today, tomorrow, and every day forward, that's still yours to command. Will you drift through another year? Or will you finally become the disciplined person you know you can be? This is your moment of choice. Not someday, right now. The Stoics called it kairos, the perfect moment for action. Everything you need is already within you. Your nature is calling you to greatness. Your potential is waiting to be expressed. Your mission is ready to be lived. If this video has awakened something in you, if you're ready to stop drifting and start building, then you're exactly who Stoic Vivu is for. We're here with practical Stoic wisdom for modern life. Subscribe now and join thousands who are transforming ancient philosophy into daily practice. Hit that notification bell so you never miss your weekly dose of Stoic strength. But don't just consume, contribute. Like this video if it spoke to you. Share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Comment below with your mission statement. Declare it publicly and make it real. The Stoic community grows stronger when we support each other's discipline journey. Your discipline revolution doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start on Monday. It starts the moment you close this video and choose your next action. Will it be another distraction? Or will it be the first step toward the life you're meant to live? The choice, as always, is yours. Make it count. Remember what Marcus Aurelius wrote. What we do now echoes in eternity. Your disciplined life begins with the next choice you make. Stay strong. Stay stoic. We'll see you in the next video.